Good morning, good afternoon, good day, and good evening. Now, I don't know what time of day it is for you, but for me, it's the good time of day. We're back at it. It is another wonderful Wednesday, and we are at it. And that right there behind you, that behind me, rather, that is a wonderful sunrise on this wonderful Wednesday. And that's what we're doing today. I have my cup of Joe with me, and want to talk about a little bit of some of the things that we talked about last night. But before we really hop into that, before we talk about any of those things that we dealt with last night, let me do the whole YouTube thing. So I'm going to ask you guys to do the the clicky on all little different buttons that you can push. Want you to subscribe. Want you to share the video with your friends if you don't mind, and give us a like. Give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing, and if you don't like what we're doing, be honest with you, I don't know why you're still here. And if you don't, and if you're really not really into it, do me a favor, leave it down in the comments below. Let me know why it is that you came in here today, why it is that you're with us this morning. If you don't really like what it is that we're doing today, I say so. Yeah, drop it in the comments. Leave it in the comments down there below. So as we're getting started this morning, the title's not clickbait. I'm really going to jump right into it. And this is pretty much just a recap of something that we talked about last night. And I really wanted to emphasize that last night, one of the things that we talked about, one of the things that we discussed, we talked about this whole topic that we have coming up or dealing with right now within this space of relationships between Black men and Black women. And it's a topic of divestment. And I'll be honest with you, anytime that you hear a Black man talk about divesting, there needs to be a level of accountability between us as Black men today. Not just today, but always a level of accountability. But this is one of those situations where the accountability really needs to come to the forefront. Because if the thought process and what I've heard is that we can divest as Black men from Black women and still maintain a strong, vibrant Black community, that is abjectly false. That is something that you are doing the white man's work. Especially, I guess if you worship white Jesus, that's one of those things that you are doing white Jesus' work or the white man's work. So the white man has considered himself God because Jesus is white. So that means his father God is going to be white. Then I guess that you're doing God's work by divesting from the Black woman at this time. And why would I say that? Let me just hurry up. I want to, say again, these morning shows, I don't want to keep them too long. I want to sit there and talk to you on your way into work, sit there and see and give you something else to think about as you're getting started today on what are some of those things that we might be considering. But specifically, if you are a Black man, rather, and I'm not talking to the sisters today I'm talking to my brothers. And the reason why I'm talking to my brothers, because this seems to be a trend that I'm seeing with my brothers right about now. And normally we're talking about staying on code, and code means that you don't say nothing, then I'm going to tell you, you can go to hell with that one. Because if there's a level of accountability, and we're saying our sisters need accountability, which I definitely agree with, especially with the amount of power, the amount of authority, the amount of pull that our sisters have within the community, I think is extremely important right now. That not only do we look at holding them accountable, but right now we need to be held accountable as well when we start putting out some of this foolishness about divestment. And I guess let me really just jump right into this as far as what is divestment? What does it mean when we talk about divestment? I know I covered it last night if you were here, but divestment essentially is divesting from the Black community, Black men divesting or leaving, getting away from, going to other races, other groups of women besides Black women. And I love my sisters. I love my brothers. And I love our community. I love Black people. If I could do it all over again and I got a do-over and they said you can come back as anything else but Black, I would say, no, thank you. I want Black. Right. So I love us as a people. And I want to make sure that if you are with somebody and they are not Black, this is not saying that, you're a bad person or you shouldn't. But if that's what you found, let's say you were at a PWI and you were at like a predominantly white institute as a college or university, and you were in a relationship with someone, I apologize for hitting that, and you are in a relationship with someone that is not black, and you end up marrying someone that's not black, more power to you. Hopefully that you have a great relationship and everything goes well with you. But if we're trying to keep the black community alive, and if we're trying to keep it as a strong, vibrant community, because the argument could be made, and it's going to be a valid argument, that if you have, as a black man or a black woman, but again, today we're focusing on black men. If as a black man, whatever comes out of you, right? If when you give your 50, right, when you go half on a baby and that 50% comes out and that half is part of you, then that half is going to be black. And that half is going to make the whole black. So definitively, any children that you have or any offspring, any issuance, any whatever the terminology that you want to use, whether it's legal or not, those children, those offspring, they're going to be black. Point blank, period. The problem that you have, and this is something that we had a sister who's an ancestor now, Sister Frances Cress Welsing. One of the things she liked to highlight when she talked about this system of racism, white supremacy, it's the fact that we have a whole breadth of knowledge, of history behind us in dealing with what happens when a black woman is sexually assaulted and gives birth, or even not sexually assaulted, but gives birth to a mixed race child. In other words, the father being some other race, but normally here in the Americas, when that happened during slavery, during Jim Crow and the times leading up till now, that mixed race child was normally the offspring of a white father and a black mother. And when you had a situation like that, the mother always made sure that when she talked to her child, when she was raising that child up, she always made sure she instilled within that child that child was black. Baby, you black. She had a black child. The child knows they're black. The child comes up in the black community. She makes sure she reinforces so that the child doesn't grow up confused, wondering why it is the society as a whole treats them one way, as if they're black, but they're not, but they have black, half white. She makes sure that that child knows that that child is black. Conversely, one of the things that we're seeing, and it's a trend that you can see today on a grand scale, that a lot of the children that are coming up now where the mother is anything other than black and the father is black, the mother wants to instill in that child that, no, you're not black. You're mixed race, you're this, you're that, you're whatever else that's out there, but you are not black. And that goes a long way to the psyche. And a lot of confusion comes up because a child is treated as black unless they are light enough or white enough that they can pass. But if not, that child has to suffer and go through all the colorism that goes in the society, as well as including the black side, but not understanding that, yes, they are black. Not only that, the other aspect of that is that a lot of times, specifically for young black men, so you're perpetuating a cycle because a lot of young men want to have a woman or start to look for a woman that puts them in the mind of their mother. They want a woman like mom. And when they're looking at that, when they're dealing with that, and they're going through this whole process of looking for a woman, looking for a wife that's like their mother who's not black, that's what they're going to go into. So now you have the father married somebody who was not black. The child, the son, he's going to do the same thing. And as it goes on, you're going to have a further dilution of the race till you do get someone who can really pass and probably wants to offload that baggage, so to speak, of being black and all of the stigmas that go with being black in the society. Not only that, but in addition to that, you have a situation where, on average, when you look at the median and the mean, women, females to males, or women to men, however, I know we're in this gender deal where it's so fluid nowadays with most people as far as their definitions, but women traditionally, historically, even currently, according to the data that we currently have, live longer on average than men, which means that when you die as a man and your son is now exploring his other half and trying to find somebody else who's not like mom, who's more like mom and not like dad per se, and they're getting out there, and now that you've passed, all of your resources that you've accumulated, that your wife gets to take on at that point, who's not black. Those resources don't go back to the community. The things that you've accumulated, that you've built up, and the breadth of all of that, does not go back to the community. All of it goes away. And the black community is left struggling, spinning its wheels without another black male to help that community to grow. So the idea that black men can divest from black women and still keep a strong, vibrant black community is patently false. And you are, for all intents and purpose, doing the white man Lord's work. So it has a divestment of black men from black women. Should we be divesting from the black woman? Obviously, when you look at it from that perspective and you consider the actual historical facts behind all of this, the answer is no. Right? It can be nothing else but no. I tend to feel similar to the sister, the ancestor now, Sister Frances Cress Welsing, on her sentiments on when it should be okay for black men, black women to start looking at white people or people outside of the race for that matter. And it's not saying, again, it's not saying you're a bad person, and obviously your kids are going to be black, and we welcome all of those offsprings into the community. However, at that juncture, when you're going through that, one of the things that you're doing, you are not just diluting, and it sounds mean, it sounds cruel, but if we're trying to strengthen the community, when these things happen, it goes a long way to just really putting a huge wrench in the community. And right about now, I also feel like the sister when she talked about when is an appropriate age for getting married. And forgive me, I need my coffee this morning. But when is an appropriate age? And I think that the later the better. And I'm not going to say later the better. The sister, she said 30. And I'm not going to disagree with 30. I think between 25 and 30 would be a good time in order to do that. But in the meantime, and I'm in Texas, so let me share something with you guys as far as getting married. And sometimes back in the old days, back in my day, we used to call it shacking up, right? So way back in the day, they used to call it shacking up when a man and a woman got together. And they would just move in. Today, there's no such stigma on this generation, right? However, when looking at it and considering it, if you're in the state of Texas, and I'm gonna preface this, and I'm gonna tell you, let me look directly into the camera. I'm gonna tell you right now what it is that we're discussing. This is a legal topic, right? And while this is a legal topic, this is not, and I repeat, as emphatically and as explicitly as I possibly can right now, this is not legal advice. Once again, legal topic, not legal advice. So with that being said, what are we talking about legally right now? Well, I want to talk about, if you're in Texas, Texas is one of those states that actually recognizes common law marriage, or in the vernacular of the statute, what would be called marriage without formalities. So how can you get caught up? Is there an amount of time that you need to be with somebody? Is there some special circumstance, some document you need to sign? It's a lot slippier and cleaner than that, depending on how it is that you want to look at that. But it's something that you really need to be careful with here in the state of Texas. So one of the things, and I'm going to share my screen here with you. So let me do this. Let's come on over here. Let's get in here right now, and let's share this screen. All right. So here we are. This is a document, and this is dealing with proof of informal marriage. So subchapter E of the Texas Family Code, Chapter 2. So this is marriage without formalities, and we're looking at Section 2.401. Woo, that sounds exciting. Said as a hardly anybody, unless you just like this type of stuff, and I guess I'm a glutton because I do kind of like this stuff. So all of the statutes that are out there, I mean, all of the judgments so far have gone in line with what this statute states. And let's look at what the statute states. So proof of informal marriage in a judicial, administrative, or other proceeding, the marriage of a man and woman may be proved by evidence that. So here's what you need in order to prove marriage without formalities. 1, a declaration of their marriage has been signed or approved by this chapter, or, love that word, or. So if you don't have that, you can have this thing that we're getting ready to deal with right now, this or that we're going to talk about. What is the or? So number 2, here's the other thing that you can have here in the state of Texas to prove that you're married. This is all the proof that you need to be married in the state of Texas and for the state of Texas to recognize you as a married couple. What is it? It says the man and the woman agreed to be married, and after the agreement. So number 1, or first element that you're looking for here in the state of Texas, the two of you guys agreed to be married. And after you guys agreed to be married, what else happens? It says, so after the agreement, they, talking about the man and the woman, live together in this state as husband and wife. So you guys agree to be married. You guys move in together as husband and wife. Note, no documentation has been signed. No formal proceeding has happened. There's no justice of the peace. There's no priest. There's no rabbi. There's no imam. There's none of that. Agreed to be married. Live together as husband and wife. Right? So those are two of the things that you need. And there's one last thing that it talks about in order to prove or serve as proof of an informal marriage. What is that last thing? It says, and. So 1, 2, and this third thing that's going to come up. So you need all three of these things. It says they're represented to others that they were married. Okay. So what are the three things? 1, you guys agreed to be married. Move in together as husband and wife. And you guys hold yourselves out to others as being married, or represented to others as being married. How much time needs to pass? Well, it doesn't say that there's any time that needs to pass. Those are the three things you need. And it's not that you need to do that and have that happen for 3 years, 4 years, or whatever. Those are the three things that you need in order to, in Texas. And again, this is a statute in Texas. This is not for any other states. And Texas is one of the few states that does recognize common law marriage. So if you do those three things in Texas, you could be on the hook as a married couple and subject to a lot of the things that married couples are subject to here in the state of Texas. So for young men and young ladies out there, be careful what you post, right? That can go a long way to helping to prove, especially that third part. And if you can prove the third part, that you guys agree, that you represented to others that you were married and you guys are living together. Number 1 is a he said, she said, right? Number 1 becomes your word against her word. And that becomes a coin flip on who the judge is going to believe at that point. So you're looking at this process. You have three things that need to be proved: that you guys agreed to be married, moved in together, lived together as husband and wife, and then you held yourselves or represented yourselves to others. You posted on Facebook, dude, this is my wife. Bad look. And then you're trying to figure out how it is that you're being stuck up for not just child support, but if you guys have been together for a number of years, living together over 12 years or over 10 years rather, and someone is due, according to the statutes here in the state, for spousal support. And that's something else we could talk about as well. But if at that point you are looking for spousal support, and this is something that when it comes to interpretations, the courts have held that this is all you need. There's no need to sit there and prove that you have a certain amount of time. And there's a rebuttable presumption that's there as you continue to read on for some other things. But if you're not 18, has an age that you need, it's going to be 18 years or older. So if you're 18 or older and you do these three things, look out. And so if you're a young man, you could be on the hook for spousal support if you guys go from 18 to 28, living together and being together, and you posting on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, this is your wife, or she says this is my hubby, and you don't do anything to say no, we are not. which is important. I'm sorry about hitting that again. Forgive me for that. I say fueling up this morning. So if you're really concerned about it, if you're looking at it and you're trying to figure out whether or not you might be on the hook, if that person can pull up and you didn't scrub your timeline, or they have some things and everybody says, oh no, he's always held out that was his wife, or she's always called him her husband. I thought that they were married. They said that they were married. Look out. You might be on the hook. There might be some things that you're going to be looking at in the state of Texas that's going to say that you are married. So that's a little, a little hint for you men. I always tell everybody, I have sons, I have daughters, and while I definitely unequivocally recommend marriage for my daughters, I don't always recommend it for my sons, and there's some reasons behind that. That I think my son needs to be a little more careful than my daughters in regards to marriage. I think both of them, or all of them for that matter, need to really go into it with their eyes wide open, understand what it is that they're actually getting themselves into, and what are some of the ramifications that they're looking at in regards to being married in this day and age in our society. So that's something you can definitely look at as far as marriage here in the state of Texas, and what it is that you're looking for someone who is married here in the state of Texas. And well, not myself. I'm no longer married in the state of Texas, outside of the state of Texas, or any place else. But I have been married, and one of the things I note as a mediator, sometimes people aren't really sure on whether or not they were married or not. And they're wondering about common law marriage, or what is called marriage without formalities here in the state of Texas. It could be, and it's not dependent on time, because sometimes people go like, well, we haven't been together for that long. So I'm assuming that we haven't met the time requirements for informal or common law marriage here in the state of Texas. Again, we just read the 3 requirements that are there by law, by statute, that if you go into the family law code on what it is that's there for you to say either you are or are not informally married or common law married in the state of Texas. So that's something that you can keep in mind. And again, I'm not a proponent specifically for men getting married in this day and age without first making sure that they vet properly. And not only that they vet properly, that they know what they should be looking for as far as green flags, and also knowing what the red flags are, the things that should disqualify a person that you're really getting ready to get into a relationship with long term. And one of the things that I think people really need to start looking for is, we talked about it in our green flags episode when we talked about what the green flags are, but you can actually take the converse of those things that you're looking for. And if they don't have those things, those would also be red flagged. So I gave you my top 5, and I know that Westradamus had like 21 that he put up there. And obviously both of our lists are different from each other's, and we gleaned some things from going through the process per se, right? And understanding things that you would look at now that you would either qualify somebody or disqualify somebody for that level of commitment, because that's essentially what marriage is. It's a contract, but it's a commitment. I know that in our society, we talk about marriage as this loving, and it's all about the emotion. The reality is the emotions come and go. That's unequivocal at this point, that emotions, they come, emotions, they go. You might feel some type of way about somebody today. You might be happy with them today, and then tomorrow you're angry with them and you just want to sit there and strangle them, right? That happens. And then vice versa. You might be really upset with somebody, something happened, and you just like over the moon with them the following day. So the emotions come and go. Your feelings, there's ebbs and flows to your feelings, but the commitment's not an emotion. Commitment is something that you just do, right? And marriage is about commitment. Marriage is about, even on those days that you don't feel like, you're still going to provide for your family. Even on those days that you don't feel like, you're still going to protect your family. Even on those days that you don't feel like, you're still going to nurture your family. Even on those days that you don't feel like, you're still going to do those things that you're responsible to your family. And I think a lot of us, we've lost sight of what marriage is actually there for. The fact that you're looking for somebody and you're vetting somebody that you're going to have kids with. You're going to have children with this individual. And you guys are going to raise these children up, which is at least an 18-year commitment. When looking at your children and the children that you're going to be raising up, you have at least 18 years that you're looking at on how long that's going to last or should last. And if you're looking at all the metrics, children do better by everything that we're able to measure. That's significant at this time in a loving two-parent household. So having a father at home goes a long way to your children doing well. And I know everybody goes, well, we can co-parent, we can do this, we can do that. But all the measurements, everything shows that if the father is not in the home, there's a lot of leeway. And granted, somebody would say, well, is that causality or is that correlation or causation? And we can make I wouldn't say it's definitively causation, but it's a very strong correlation between the two. And I guess I should explain what that difference is. God dog it. Why I do that to myself? So correlation and causation. Let's talk about it for a hot minute before we get on out of here, because I don't want to keep you guys too long. I'll try to keep these at 30 minutes less on the morning. I know everybody's getting on in there and trying to get after it. But correlation and causation. What's the difference between the two? What's correlation? What's causation? And why does it matter? What's the difference? What are we looking for between correlation and causation? All right. So correlation, right? If you have something that's correlative or that correlates to something, it's something that you look at, it seems like that might be the reason for it. Let me give you let's do it this way. I apologize. Let me just do it. Let me explain to you how I would explain this to my kids. And I really want to talk about some things that happen with Black history today, but I'll get to that right after I finish this explanation. So let's say you're driving into work, you're getting ready to go into work, and and early in the morning right now, you're on the drive-in. And on the drive-in, as you're heading on into work, right, there's a slowdown in traffic. And obviously, once you get up to where the slowdown is actually happening, which causes a traffic jam, you notice there's an accident on the side of the road. And you know it before you get to it because you see all the flashing lights. You got ambulance, you got police, you got a wrecker or a tow truck driver, or however, I say, depending on where you're at regionally here on what you would call those. And so you get up there, and every single time that you do this, when you get in the morning and you see this, every single time you see an accident on your way home, going in, you see that there's the flashing lights, there's the police, there's the ambulance, there is the wrecker or tow truck driver that's there. So you can look at that and you can say, oh my goodness, police and ambulances and tow truck drivers are always there at the scene of an accident. Police, ambulances, and or tow truck drivers or tow trucks must cause accidents. Obviously, that's a ridiculous thing. They don't cause accidents. That's not causation. That would be a correlation. There's an accident, and they report to the scene of an accident to address whether or not someone's injured, take a report, take the vehicle off the road. Right. So there's a correlation between them, but that they're not the cause of the accident. And sometimes we look at something that correlates to something, and we view it as causation. Why is that important, and how does that come back to what we're talking about? Well, it comes back to whether or not having fathers in the home is a direct cause of those measurable statistics that we're able to take a look at or not. And while it is definitely not the cause that every time you see that, it is a direct correlation and is one that kind of lends itself to more than likely being the cause of that. And there's a couple other things that you can sprinkle in there as well that goes towards correlation and possibly causation of these negative statistics or negative things such as premarital pregnancies or pregnancies in youth, or high school dropouts, a tendency towards going to prison. All of these things seem to have a correlation, or there's a definitive correlation there with the lack of fathers in the home, as well as also dropping out of school. So there's a direct correlation there that we can look at, and that might actually be the cause. And I point that out, and I say might be, because while I don't want to overemphasize the role of a father, I think that the father's role is extremely important within the family arrangement. That being said, so let's get back to something else I really wanted to talk about today, and that is something that when we're looking at Black history today, or something that happened in regards to Black history, and this is more along the lines of things that are going on worldwide, because today would also be the day of the first time that in South Africa they had elections after apartheid. That would be one of the things where it was an all-race election. It's first time in apartheid South Africa where you were able to have Blacks participate in the democratic process in that country, and that was back in 1994 on today. So when looking at that, and actually it also happened yesterday. So between yesterday and today, that was something that you can point to and show that happened. Was that yesterday? Let me go in here and go take a look at my reference before I sit there and make that. Yes, it was. Okay. So yesterday that was done. And back in 1927, the now ancestor, late great sister, Coretta Scott King, she was born today, back in 1927. So today being April 27th, this is another day that, as I say, these are some of the things that have happened within Black history during this time frame. Togo became an independent country back in 1960 today. Sierra Leone also became independent a year later in 1961. Tanzania was created in 1964. And again, general elections were done in which Black people could vote in South Africa back in 1994 on today as well. So in looking at my notes, I always like to point those things out. And there's something coming up. Today is the 27th. Tomorrow, I'm excited. There's something that I'm chomping at the bit. I want to talk about tomorrow that happened on April 28th, dealing with law. I say that's a hint, and dealing with the Admiralty and the Navy, both two things I'm pretty familiar with, or have a history with both. So tomorrow, pop back on in. We're going to talk about these things that have happened in Black history tomorrow when we get on here, and hopefully everything's going great with you today on your way in. Again, that's beautiful sunrise. Look at that. That is a great day. I am looking forward to getting into it, and making sure that we go, I say, all of that stuff goes on the way that it's supposed to today. So I'm excited. We're looking at a beautiful day today. Let me if you're not in the Houston area, this doesn't apply to you, but it's going to be a hot day today. High of 82 is what's currently forecasted, with a low of 57. Right now we're at 57, so we're at the low, but it's going to hop up today right around noontime. We're going to be around 82 degrees. I know a lot of people don't, the humidity, it's going to be kind of there, but it's Houston, so you're used to it. I say traffic looks pretty decent this morning heading on in, so that's always a plus, specifically after this whole pandemic thing that we had, the situation. So yeah, I say, so that's all I really wanted to talk with you guys about this morning. I didn't want to really get too deep into it, but that's something that we can definitely look into for the family. And today, when we get ready to go into it in this afternoon, this evening, we're going to be talking about something that it's an accountability issue. And in looking at divestment, we talked with our sisters yesterday. But today I really want to focus on us as men. And I think when we talk about accountability, it's easy. And I don't want to say lazy sometimes. I'm not going to say lazy, because focusing on the other party is kind of easy, but I really want to get in there on our responsibilities and accountabilities for men, and some of the issues and things that we need to deal with that, and holding ourselves accountable on things that we can do. And one of them deals with what is that we're looking for, and understanding the purpose of marriage, and being a father and our responsibilities and what we need to do in order to help to make the community strong. And so we're going to talk about that today on the evening show when we get in here tonight at 8 o'clock. And I hope that you guys will join us tonight at 8 o'clock as we talk about those aspects, those issues that are affecting Black men specifically, and what it is that we can do in order to be better role models, to be better in helping our community to grow, and making sure that everything that we do, granted, it's never going to be perfect, but what we can do that will help the community along, that will help us to succeed when everything, I'm not going to say everything, but a lot of things are kind of going against us per se in society today. So we want to make sure that as we're going through this process, as we're talking through it, that it's not just talk, that there's a lot of action. My old man used to always tell me, actions speak louder than words. And that's one of the things that we definitely want to make sure that we're cognizant of, is that we have actions to go along with the words that we're talking, and that our actions follow that course, and that we are upbuilding within the community and not necessarily tearing down the community at large and the community around us. So that being said, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I actually just went over on the time frame that I was looking for this morning, but I know I didn't tell you when I started out, and I know I didn't tell you today so far. So let me tell you now that I love you. I hope that you're blessed. I hope that your day is going great. I hope that as you're getting ready to go in, or if you're listening to me a little later on today, I hope that your day was great and that it turned out outstanding and you accomplished all the things that you wanted to on this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. And with that, I pray that you may always, always, always be blessed with peace in your life. And with that, we are out. Be blessed.